Well, good afternoon and hello. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you taking the time today. I want to first introduce myself. My name is Adam Crockett. I work, of course, at D&H Distributing, and I am the Senior Director of Professional Managed Services. I will serve as your moderator and host today, and I'm excited to bring some great content to you folks, hopefully good use of your time. I'll start by saying at D&H, we thank you for your business. We thank you for the partnership. And we certainly, again, thank you for your time today. There's many things you could be doing right now, and we appreciate that. And we're going to hopefully make good use of the next 45 minutes of your time. Having said that, I just wanted to reflect on an announcement we made at D&H back in late March at the Channel Partners event in Las Vegas. At that point, we announced our partnership with T-Mobile as our carrier of choice for all things 5G connectivity or mobility. And I want to share a little bit about the backstory about that, and then I will turn it over to our partner here today to share the rest of today's content. I'm not from IT distribution. I worked in the channel a bit, but for many years I owned my own business in an adjacent area of IT. And I'm certainly not from telco. So the event itself was in large part an education for me. And Jake served as my partner that day, and in fact, 2 or 3 days, and spent most of our time together talking with many different folks. But one thing I did notice is that the Channel Partners event has historically been an event for the telco distribution channel. And there were so many IT distribution, MSP reseller, value-added reseller partners there. And I believe we're at the convergence of telco and IT. Like the two very distinct, very parallel industries are starting to converge, and therein lies the opportunity for D&H and all of you. And what I mean by that is carriers like T-Mobile recognize that all of you folks on the call, all of your businesses play a very intimate relationship with end users. You are their trusted advisor for just about everything IT. And so you understand their network topography, and you know what switches and hubs and routers they use, and maybe even who their internet service provider is. And you're the ones they call for recommendation and advice and consultation. And so the carriers want to invest heavily in IT. They believe, again, it's a long-term consultative relationship, not one that's so telco transactional oriented. And so therein lies the opportunity for us, and therein lies the opportunity and the timing for us to go at this together. And what a better year to do that maybe than when Windows device refresh is at its highest with the expiration of Windows 10. Why did we choose TMO? 2 simple reasons, or why did we choose T-Mobile? We know and we found that they have the best 5G network in the United States, not the best 4G network. And I think Jake will share a little bit about that. And a lot of you who have a T-Mobile cell phone like I do myself, I recall my days of having some poor 4G coverage, but as fate would have it, I didn't change and I'm still on a T-Mobile device. But from a T-Mobile 5G network perspective, now in partnership with Starlink, they've got the best secure, always connected, high-speed 5G in the United States. It's not my opinion, it's just facts. So that was the single biggest reason we chose. And the second, and not to be far behind, reason we chose to partner exclusively with T-Mobile was they have the richest channel compensation plans. So for D&H and for all of you on the call, if you want to begin your process of and journey of becoming a 5G IT reseller or a 5G MSP, there's no richer compensation channel model out there than what T-Mobile is offering. Okay, having said all that, I'm going to introduce our partner today, which is Cellhub. Cellhub is our primary agent. They sell and are the agent to T-Mobile and no other carrier. So they are exclusive with T-Mobile. They are our 5G consultant, they are our primary agent, and they are our business partner on our journey in 5G. Having said that, any questions that you have, you can log into the Q&A chat, and I will watch that as the event goes on. And at the end, we will open it up for questions orally and otherwise. Having said that, thank you again. We'll be conscious of your time, and we look forward to sharing some additional exciting news about our partnership. of which some of that was placed in LinkedIn on our social network as recently as yesterday. Having said that, Jake, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Adam. I really appreciate that introduction. It's always good to be in front of D&H partners together, and just really appreciate the partnership with D&H over the course of this year as we've built this program for your partners, for D&H partners to be able to leverage and uplift them in front of their customer base. So I appreciate everyone joining. My name is Jake Drager. I work for Cellhub, as Adam mentioned, and I lead our distribution go-to-market strategy. And one of my functions within Cellhub, supporting D&H not only as a distributor, but all of D&H's downstream channel partners, of which you all are. I'd like to just add a couple of additional comments, tying on to a couple of points that Adam made around Cellhub as a primary agent, as I'm not sure where everyone's understanding or experiences working in that space. Think of a primary agent very similar to a distributor. So in the quote telco channel, the OEMs are the carriers, the network operators, and their product is their network. They do not have the ability to offer a full suite of technology solutions and services like all of the channel partners here today do. And they rely heavily on the channel, as Adam mentioned, to go and round out the overall deployment of the customer solution and help the channel partners to incorporate in T-Mobile's network. T-Mobile relies on primary agents like Cellhub to do that. And one of the unique things about Cellhub is that we have been exclusive to T-Mobile for 30 years, before they were even T-Mobile. But many of us last year came over to Cellhub from a variety of backgrounds in the IT channel space, from distribution, from OEMs and channel partners. So our background at Cellhub really is in the IT channel, and we blend that together with our understanding of T-Mobile's 5G network and the solution portfolio that you all have access to as part of the partner program to create what we call the Rosetta Stone of traditional IT and 5G as one language that you can then learn and take into your customer community. So as a primary agent, our role is to enable our partners. It is to train them technically and sales oriented. It is to help them co-sell solutions into their customer base with integrated 5G connectivity. And then also, as we're articulating here on this slide, activations earn you a commission, a one-time activation commission, and a monthly residual from the carriers, which is distributed by Cellhub directly to you. So with that, today what we wanted to do is give you a really comprehensive understanding not only of why D&H chose T-Mobile to partner with from a 5G partnership point of view, but also what makes T-Mobile unique for you all to understand. So we're just going to spin our propeller a little bit there to start the call off with a little bit of background around 5G and what makes it different, as most folks, as Adam mentioned, really have what we found is most folks start in the consumer mindset. Your handset, your phone's in front of you every day. That's how you think about 5G, how many folks think about 5G. And what we're not talking about phones today, although you can earn money on voice line activations through the partner program. This is much more of a focus around mid-market and enterprise IT solutions powered by 5G. So understanding the network is paramount, and then we're going to take you through a couple of very important and timely solution stacks, part of the T-Mobile tech stack, for you all to understand. So with that, let's go into the high-level overview of what 5G is. So we all know that 5G is the network service that you consume on a cellular-enabled device from a network operator like T-Mobile. We're not going to get into too much detail here on this slide, and these slides will be available to you after the presentation. But there's a couple of unique things that I want to call out as the key differentiators in the evolution of cellular networks over the years, and why 5G is different. So first of all, 5G is managed and is governed by the 3GPP, which is a global board that sets the standards for 5G implementations globally. And with 5G comes three distinct new use cases in cellular networks. It's enhanced mobile broadband, which is really just the performance and the strength of the network to power mobile devices, whether that be handsets, tablets, laptops, etc. It is the ability for 5G also to provide mission critical services with its uptime and reliability improvements over previous generations, and its ability to support massive IoT, high density machine deployments, so that to give you a sense of what 5G can handle from a capacity perspective, up to 1 million IoT devices within a square kilometer, within the distance of a tower. So IoT really evolved over the last 4 or 5 years and exploded primarily because 4G couldn't handle the IoT use case from a number of devices and a density perspective, and 5G now can. So 4G and 5G both are comprised of, ultimately, there's a wavelength, the cellular signal that the network operators propagate out from their towers that carry the voice and the data over the network. And 4G was really one pool of what's called spectrum, and spectrum is a finite resource that is licensed and has specific attributes. And 4G was just one analogous pool, ultimately. And 5G now has three distinct bands of spectrum: low, mid, and high band. And each of these bands of spectrum have specific characteristics associated with them. So low band travels very far, but doesn't carry a ton of bandwidth with it, and it's fairly slow. That's very useful for IoT. High band is very, very powerful, and it needs a point-to-point, almost direct line of sight to the destination, where structural impediments will pose a challenge to the actual integrity of the network. Things like trees, things like walls, etc., but very powerful. And midband is really the sweet spot. And midband has the right blend of capacity, bandwidth, performance, latency, etc., that is most applicable to the large majority of business applications, whether that be on connected cellular devices or high-speed internet, etc. Midband is really that sweet spot for most of that. And why am I calling out midband specifically? I'm calling out midband because T-Mobile, specifically through the acquisition of Sprint about 7-8 years ago, has the largest midband spectrum holdings in the US, more than AT&T and Verizon combined. So that's really important. We'll talk about that on the next slide. And as you can see here, some of the performance enhancements over 4G are really, really meaningful in a big way. So right now, these seems like kind of statistics and numbers and maybe a little technical, but this is really, I wanted to articulate the key differences in the evolution of cellular networks and why 5G is unique compared to 4G, which a lot of folks think about as cellular failover in a lot of cases. So when we talk to our partners, we want them to understand why T-Mobile is unique, and we'll relate this downstream into the solutions that you all are selling today that we can power with 5G in the subsequent slides. But we really boil it down to three distinct, unique value proposition pillars. So on the previous slide, I talked about T-Mobile spectrum holdings. Remember, spectrum is a finite resource. It's auctioned off by the government. It is heavily, heavily regulated. So T-Mobile having that spectrum holding portfolio in midband, which is that sweet spot for most business use cases, that is a huge advantage because that governs the cellular network operator's ability to actually go out and deliver the performance and the quality of service out to the end customer. So that is super important. Adam also mentioned the exclusive partnership that T-Mobile have with Starlink. So with a lot of use cases, for example, think about energy and utilities, where you have line workers that are servicing equipment that's out in extremely rural areas where there's not a good terrestrial network infrastructure footprint, physical towers, that is. Starlink for that line worker that's up on a windmill doing a repair. There's a lot of safety concerns there. And Starlink and satellite may be the only way for a cellular connection to be made to a wearable device for that repair worker to actually make sure that they're checking in, hey, we're safe, everything's going well, etc. So this partnership with Starlink is really unique, and it's exclusive to T-Mobile for the first year. So that is all something that T-Mobile is doing that's unique and serves a lot of those very ultra rural use cases. And then I argue that the coolest thing from a technology perspective is actually how T-Mobile has architected their network at large. So a 5G or a cellular network, there's what's called a network core. And the core is the brains of the network. It runs all the network functions and all the network services out to the macro network, all to all the cell towers. And those are housed within ultra secure data centers and across the US. And there's really two different types of 5G networks. There's what's called a standalone network and a non-standalone network. A 5G non-standalone network is where the core is actually running on LTE infrastructure, 4G infrastructure. And that's what AT&T and Verizon have in the majority of US markets today. So there's limitations to that in terms of leveraging the full potential of what 5G brings, which we'll talk about here in the next couple of slides. But that is a non-standalone network that AT&T and Verizon operate. T-Mobile, when they had acquired Sprint, also went through and upgraded their cores and bet on 5G based on the standards of the 3GPP governing board that I talked about on the last slide. And they upgraded all of their network cores to run on 5G infrastructure. So T-Mobile's network is run from the ground up, from the core up, on 5G infrastructure. And what that allows them to do, based on what 5G improvements have been rolled out, the capacity that they have, is T-Mobile operate their macro network in a software-defined function. So they operate their network like a modern virtualized data center network where it is architected. They can do very unique things and integrate in different AI platforms to help with intelligent routing and patching of their network, etc. But for us all here, one of the very unique things that a standalone network allows T-Mobile to do is what's called network slicing. And I'm sure you've all heard about private 5G and what it's supposed to bring to market and where is it, etc. 5G network slicing is very uniquely available to T-Mobile at a macro level to the business community. And what slicing is really, as I mentioned before, T-Mobile operating their network in a software-defined function where they can actually run virtualization across their whole network infrastructure. And a slice of the network is just what it sounds like. It's a piece of the network that is taken out and can be customized for specific uses. So the bandwidth can be defined, the uptime, it is application aware, so that certain application traffic can be prioritized on the cellular network. It can be deployed to a specific customer at the SIM level for certain SIMs within the organization to have access to the slice. And the slice combines all the attributes of those three bands of spectrum that I spoke about earlier, so that it can be perfectly customized to fit a customer's specific needs and use case. And what T-Mobile have done is they've done two things commercially available to T-Mobile partners today. One is Secure Slice, which is just what it sounds like. It's a slice of T-Mobile's network that is built for security, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that's actually deployed in market. And the second is what's called T-Priority, which is their slice for first responders. So many of you may have heard about or be familiar with FirstNet from AT&T, which is AT&T's solution for first responders. They have dedicated bands on their network that are for first responders that provide priority and preemption on their network for first responders. T-Mobile, about 8 months ago, released T-Priority. And because of their ability in how they've architected their network in that standalone architecture, their priority slice is very unique in public safety compared to FirstNet. Think of FirstNet as 2 HOA lanes on the highway for first responders. That's great, but you can still get congestion there if there's a lot of traffic. Where T-Priority, because of their ability to the virtualization of their network, essentially, they have 2 HOA lanes, but when they start to get congestion in those 2 HOA lanes, they open up automatically a third lane. So essentially, it's removing the challenges of congestion for first responders, which is critical for first responders, because the challenge for them is that they're going to high density environments where the tower is heavily congested there. And yes, they have priority and preemption, but the tower can only handle so much. So first responders will often run into congestion and slower speeds, which they can't sacrifice performance and speed on a cellular network in a lot of the scenarios that they're in. So some very unique things that T-Mobile bring to market with how they've architected their network, and then the effects of that and how they've commercialized these as offerings for the partner community. So I won't spend a ton of time on this slide, but this is really the portfolio slide. This is just to articulate here are the different solution sets as we've categorized them for our partners in the T-Mobile Partner Program. And we'll talk about these a little bit throughout the day today. But business internet, think of that really as traditional failover or increasingly more primary connectivity, internet service provider, ISP connectivity to a business via 5G. Enterprise mobility is really centered around tablets and handsets and handhelds. More and more organizations are adopting mobility strategies because they have more and more distributed environments, and Wi-Fi is a great fit in certain use cases, but as mobility is adopted, Wi-Fi is put to the test, and Wi-Fi is not built for mobility, it's built for static environments within the 4 walls. And as mobility increases, the need for 5G does more. Hence, you'll see all of the OEMs are really leaning a lot more into their cellular enabled and their 5G products that they're bringing to market over the last couple of years and onwards. Connected laptops is a massive opportunity that we see in market today for a lot of the same reasons around mobility, but also really around security ultimately there. And we'll talk about connected laptops more today. IoT and telematics for fleets of devices is a great opportunity for partners that are working with customers that have fleets, but also operate environments, potentially even in things like farming we're talking to a customer about. And there's a massive IoT deployment there, but it's very challenging in rural areas for IoT environments to be supported without the proper coverage. And we're working with T-Mobile to solve for that at a very large school of agriculture. So IoT is a great opportunity. We talked about the secure slice from T-Mobile. That is categorized under SASE, so that's Secure Access Services Edge, which is just an industry term for essentially the intersection and the combination of network and security via a common interface. So T-Mobile SASE solution leverages their network slicing capabilities and builds on Zero Trust Network Access foundational principles. And Enterprise 5G is T-Mobile's ability to deliver hybrid 5G networks, and we'll talk about there towards the end of the call. But this is the portfolio of solutions that you have access to by being a T-Mobile channel partner. These are not solutions that T-Mobile sells you. For example, business internet, this is where, hey, we already sell Aruba or Cradlepoint or Netgear. And there's a cellular component to that. And we help you to include and to integrate the 5G aspect and the connectivity aspect into that device. Same goes for laptops, tablets, etc. But this is just to give you a sense of all of the product segments that 5G attaches to. So first, we'll talk about connected laptops, 5G laptops. We're talking to a lot of D&H partners at device roadshows over the U.S. This year, getting a lot of great feedback and interest from partners there. And if you aren't planning on attending one of those this year, or you're just finding out about this now, I would strongly recommend that you attend one of those nearby you through the course of the rest of the year. I won't go really read this slide here to you, but suffice it to say, as I'm sure you hear nearly on a daily basis, Windows 10 is going into support in October, and there's still a massive Windows 10 install base out there today. And yes, there are a lot of environments where Windows 10 devices or devices running Windows 10 can migrate to Windows 11 based on their ability to support an MPU or not. But a lot of those can't. And as we know, all the analysts and all the OEMs have been saying over the last year or so, hey, the tidal wave's coming, device refresh. Everyone had pushed to more remote workforces over COVID, and there were a lot of client device buys in 2020 and into 2021 that maybe didn't fit the standards list of an organization, but they just had to get whatever their hands on whatever they could, potentially. So when that refresh is coming, we are really saying to partners that we're working with is, when you're going through and using tools to identify the customer environment, what's out there, the devices, their age, what they're running, if they're able to be migrated to Windows 11 or not, and how then you take the prioritize based on user profile and function at the end customer, what devices are needed where to right size the organization around their standards list if they do have one, and their budgetary concerns, is that through that conversation, especially in the user profiling discussions that you have with customers, we urge our partners to just ask the question around, are your users mobile in any way? Are you looking for them to become more mobile? Are their functions becoming more mobile? And if they are, and we find that not an entire organization doesn't have a fully mobile fleet most of the time, but there's 25, 30% of that end customer that has a mobility function as part of their role to the company. And those folks would be benefited from embedded connectivity in a laptop. And we're not saying necessarily to lead with connectivity, but as you are speccing out that solution and how you deploy it and how you consult with the customer around their migration to Windows 11, don't leave the connectivity and the mobility aspect out of that conversation, because that's something that they're thinking about, and they might just not be aware of embedded connectivity in laptops. We talk to end customers all the time with our partners that didn't know about it, don't know about 5G laptops, and they've had cellular hotspots that they've been giving to employees, and those, first of all, not secure. Second of all, consistently being lost and left behind in hotel rooms, on the airplane, the airport, you name it. But they're leaving that somewhere, or they forget to bring it with them. And then they have to go and try and find public Wi-Fi, which poses a security challenge, potentially. So
hey, Jake,
just saying, yeah.
I'm sorry, Jake, a couple questions coming in as just to not let them build up. Is that okay? Give you a chance to catch your breath for that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll help answer them with you, but I just want to make sure. Hey, Rodney Hall, first question was, how does a laptop connect to the network? These are going to be maybe not aligned with your last slide, but is it a USB connection or what, or otherwise? And so I want to address that question. There's two others. So
Perfect.
I'll give it my best shot here, and then you can fill in any gaps. Is that all right?
Go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah, so all of the major manufacturers, Rodney, and the rest of the partner community are beginning to make 5G embedded laptops. The same way 20 years ago, laptops started to come with a Wi-Fi embedded. So HPI, Dell, Lenovo, Surface, they all have a 5G make and model that has an embedded SIM. Now, I will report this. I know Jake knows where I'm heading with this, but for the time being, for those who've already done device refresh and they do not have a 5G eSIM in them, in a few weeks, D&H is expecting to announce again a partnership with a hardware manufacturer that is going to allow an existing laptop to connect via a USB-C dongle with a T-Mobile SIM inside it, and it can allow that to become 5G enabled as well. Doesn't need a battery, doesn't need a charge. It charges through your USB-C. It has a SIM inside it, a T-Mobile SIM with a data plan, and it would allow a non-embedded device to work the same. Hope that answers your question, Rodney. Second question is, how is D&H involved in the process? Yes. So whether it's this particular physical SIM or the eSIM that's inside of the laptop itself, we will capture that SIM number, that IMEI number on the serialized device, and report that back through the sub-agent of record, your company, if you choose to become a sub-agent, so that you are properly commissioned or paid by T-Mobile for activating that data plan. But we will provide the pertinent data so that T-Mobile can activate the SIM card while it's en route to your end user. How did I do, Jake, on those two questions? Good?
That's exactly right. And I could probably take this one here from
Rick Winstead. Hey, Rick.
Although I do think that perhaps in a few slides, I'll wrap this in a few slides, because I'll have additional context for you to tie in. So we'll get back to you.
Sounds good. Last question. One just came in, and then we'll continue on. Will there be a replacement card to swap out for 5G and laptops? Can you address that, Jake? And then we'll jump back in for the next 10 or 15 minutes. And thanks for the questions, all.
Yeah, this is great. So there's a couple of scenarios here. There's one, Jeff, where there would be say a Wi-Fi only laptop that's already deployed out in the field. There, you can't exactly go and insert. Really, what the component is it's a radio that goes into the device that transmits and receives the cellular signal. You can't necessarily go and unpack a device and put a 5G radio in it. There, we would arm you with the ability to go address that via something like a hotspot or that 5G dongle, the USB-C 5G dongle that Adam just showed there, depending on the customer needs around security and their preferences around what their users carry. The second scenario is, for example, let's say Lenovo X1 Carbon deployed at a customer, and they say, I'd love to start using 5G for this. Good news is that a lot of the devices that are deployed out today already have the 5G capability, but just haven't been turned on because that wasn't something that they had in their plan or were aware of, et cetera. So those are really the two scenarios that you'll find, and we can help you address either one of those.
Yep. All right. Thanks. Let's get back at it. Keep the questions coming. We'll take another round of questions, maybe 6 or 7 minutes from now, and then we'll do a bit more at the end. But keep them coming, and any questions that you forget about, you can go to tmo5g@dnh.com. That would be tmo5g@dnh.com. That is the dedicated senior sales specialist and business consultant that can assist you at D&H with any of these sorts of questions going forward. All right, Jake, back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. So high-level value proposition around 5G laptops, as I mentioned, an organization most likely isn't going to adopt 5G laptops for all of the users in the company. You think about someone that's going into, just say, an office job. They're going into the office, they're sitting at their cube, they're shutting down, they're going home for the day. Probably not a great candidate or someone that needs 5G connectivity built into the laptop. But there are, through your conversations and understanding your customers, users that are more mobile that would benefit from that. And the benefits are, one, clearly with not having to find Wi-Fi or be in Wi-Fi to connect to the internet and to essentially work and collaborate with others. Cellular removes the need to find public Wi-Fi for mobile users, which is also a big security bonus because there's a ton of Wi-Fi spoofing and challenges out there for an organization when they're trying to secure their client environment. But users, as I'm sure as technology advisors to your customers, sometimes that linchpin is the user. they're the ones that invite the trouble in. So if you prevent them from needing to go to public Wi-Fi and log onto a spoof Wi-Fi network, 5G laptops would certainly help them avoid that risk. From a connectivity perspective, we talked a lot about metrics and what makes 5G different than previous cellular generations. The connectivity for 5G laptops is super fast, large file downloads, and also uplink into cloud-based applications and resources while running other applications on the device like video calling, etc. That's something that's supported there. Obviously, the ability from an ROI perspective at an end customer, they're considering at a user level, how do we help everyone be more productive? Half the reason everyone's looking and talking about Copilot, right? Which I'm sure you can't get away from right now either in your seats. How do we help our users be more productive? AI is great, but also they need to be able to access the things that they need to be able to access, regardless of their location as a user or their location as a file destination. And cellular 5G laptops enable productivity and that ROI at a user level for end customer decision makers. From a cost effectiveness standpoint, we've also built programs to help our channel partners to drive adoption of 5G laptops. Some are built with 5G integrated off the shelf as the BTO version of that device. Others require CTO, and the 5G radio that goes into the device to make it 5G embedded can run about $150 of increased costs. We've built programs to take the cost of that out, which we'll talk about a little bit later. From a security perspective, this is the one, we talked about Wi-Fi and not needing to get on public Wi-Fi networks anymore for mobile users. The secure slice from T-Mobile also plays a very important role in helping to harden the security posture at the client device level of an organization as well. And then, as I mentioned, we can't get away from the Copilot conversation or just AI PCs in general. If you're leveraging AI, it's not always running local on the PC. And for those users that do have access to those platforms and those AI resources for their function, oftentimes those are running in cloud-based data lakes. They're running not locally, and most of the AI client device AI processing is done in hybrid workloads, natural language processing, and simple functions that run at the chip level locally on the device, but many of the more complex, more valuable functions ultimately run in the cloud. And to access the cloud, you need a network. So making the best of the investment into AI for an organization is just another reason why to consider 5G laptops as an end customer. So I spoke a bit earlier about secure slice and secure access services edge and how T-Mobile complements that industry standard today with their own SASE offering. And as I mentioned before, as I was talking about how T-Mobile have the ability to operate their macro network in a virtualized fashion, T-Mobile SASE is the commercial product version of that. And we view this as being really fantastic use case from a security perspective at the client device level, where users may struggle with keeping their VPN on, or the VPN updates and it logs them out of a meeting, or just overall adherence to actually leveraging VPNs and the cost of managing and deploying them, etc. The challenge here with VPNs that what we've found overall, and VPNs are great in certain use cases and challenged in others, and where they're challenged, T-Mobile SASE offering is a really great way to help the customer keep their security posture. So what it is the SIM in the device is off when the network traffic, when traffic leaves the say laptop, it is authenticated on the T-Mobile network as a T-Mobile SASE device. And the network then intelligently opens up a slice of the macro network such that that traffic rides that private slice of T-Mobile's network directly into T-Mobile's core, where it passes through a Versa gateway, and then directly to, via IPsec tunnel, to the end destination, whether that's the corporate network or the cloud-based application. So in short, deploying T-Mobile SASE on a client device from boot, all that traffic never touches the public internet. And that's what a lot of these InfoSec and security teams and customers are trying to solve for. Our users in the field consistently forget to turn their VPN on. They're constantly accessing public Wi-Fi, and that poses a security risk, and they might not turn on their VPN. And there's always on VPN solutions, but from a mobility perspective, this is the blend of all of those challenges in the form of a solution. Mobile, always on, private connectivity at the device level that the user doesn't need to think about. So really, really unique stuff. And there's a lot more past that we can talk about in subsequent follow-ups, but really, really valuable solution for you all to look at.
Jake, there's a couple other questions coming in.
Oh, great. Yeah, let's go to them.
All right. First question, did you get back to Rick on the K-12, or are you still going to tie that into the next slide or two?
Next few slides there.
Okay. So then two other questions here. Are there SKUs for this service in the D&H database? The answer to your question there, Rodney, and thanks, it's a great question. At D&H.com, we have a 5G icon placed next to all 5G-able or 5G SIM embedded devices. And our senior sales specialist at TMO5G at D&H.com also gets you that full device list if needed. So, and we are equipping your sales support team with those that same information. And then Wesley Walker, cell phone hotspot. You need to elaborate a bit more on the question. I'll give you one comment to it, and then we'll address the question 7 is, I use my cell phone as a hotspot as well here, right? This is my T-Mobile phone. And when I showed you that dongle live just a few minutes ago, the difference between this and that dongle is this is going to burn my battery. This is going to broadcast a Wi-Fi that could be spoofed, but more than anything, it's going to burn my battery, where that other one is a direct connect into my my physical device, and it has no battery drain on my cell phone. And so it is an alternative to a cell phone hotspot, albeit it comes with a data plan, and certainly something that you're going to be able to sell to your customers. And it would be, I think, almost like the alternative to some Netgear Nighthawk hotspot or some other shared hotspot that all of us have used over the years. All right, with that being said, I think we addressed a lot of them. There was a question about a cradle point. Leonard, that's a long question. I think I want to make sure I answer that question specifically. So I'm going to save that one, giving you a specific device alternative for failover to a static IP. It's a great question, but I do want to make sure we get you a thoughtful answer. Wesley, you answered what I was wondering. Great. And then Ryan, is there a filter field when looking at laptops that show devices that are WWAN 5G connected? What is that filter called? I think that filter would be, you could search under Cellhub, not T-Mobile, but at D&H.com. If you search Cellhub or 5G, Ryan, I believe you should be able to identify those devices that are able to be 5G activated. All right, yeah. Let's make sure we get to Rick's question in the next couple slides. We're at 44 minutes, so we've got about another 10 to 15 tops.
Perfect. Okay. So all right. I won't talk a ton about this case study here, but this is an active deployment that we've recently done with a insurance organization supporting their claims agents. So just a great use case and case study for you all to think about, to relate to in your own customers. As I mentioned, we'll have this slide deck available to you after the presentation. But this is where we delivered a 5G laptop with T-Mobile SASE on the device to help claims agents improve the overall security posture of the distributed environment of client devices that are out there, but also help them remain more productive as they were challenged with that previously. So great case study, and happy to talk to any of you about that in further detail afterwards. Business Internet is the next solution that we'll talk about. This is honestly a really straightforward solution. I think a lot of you understand it. It's straightforward in terms of its presentation and what exactly it is. And then Leonard, you had a a great question in terms of how you've partnered with T-Mobile and Cradlepoint to deliver this. So there's a little bit more complexity under the covers. As I mentioned before, we're happy to have follow-ups with you all to understand where you are and what specific questions that you have. Business internet at a high level is really just using 5G as the internet into a building. Generally, that's done with a 5G gateway or router that captures the signal, and then in some instances actually propagates that itself into a Wi-Fi environment, or runs Ethernet into an internal a Wi-Fi router internally to propagate the Wi-Fi signal and create that environment. Business internet traditionally, from a cellular perspective, is restricted to failover, and it's got still extremely viable there, but we're seeing increasingly more adoption around primary connectivity. This is a flagship case study that T-Mobile will have with Tractor Supply. At a high level, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Tractor Supply, but there's about 2,300 locations across the U.S., fairly large stores, and a lot of them in very rural areas. And the challenge that Tractor Supply had was that because they're nationwide, they were dealing with about 165 or so regional and local internet service providers. They had no standardization on cost. They had no standardization on SLA or management of that. And every minute of downtime at a location is lost revenue for a retail organization. So what they allowed T-Mobile to do is they gave them the 10 toughest stores to service from a network perspective. T-Mobile did a POC. The results came back. Tractor Supply loved it. And today, Tractor Supply has cut over all of their primary connectivity from a wireline connection into the building to a T-Mobile 5G business internet solution. So at scale, T-Mobile have delivered this for an enterprise retail organization. So this is extremely viable for all types of organizations downstream. This is a retail case study. It's very applicable in other verticals, but this one really shows the capacity that the network has to be able to solve traditionally challenges that cellular was ruled out of entirely. This is a really interesting solution that I wanted to just briefly highlight to you all, because I understand that security is top of mind for all of your customers, regardless of vertical. And you all serve as consultants many times around security for your customers. And Movius Multiline is a very unique ISV solution in the T-Mobile ecosystem that you have access to go out and deploy. That provides a secure, compliant communications platform on an existing device. What I would suggest is that we have I'm more than happy to provide additional materials on Movius. I'm going to provide a very cursory, high-level overview in terms of what it does here today, and I think it'll interest a lot of you to have a follow-up conversation. But essentially what Movius is it's a software application that is deployed on a device that can be a phone, a tablet, a laptop, and provides a T-Mobile for Business phone number. And we'll come back to why that's important. But that application serves as the aggregation point for all communication channels on that device. So why that is really important is because customers are increasingly communicating with their clients and meeting them where they are in their communication strategy. They might have a client, let's say a financial services company, for example, where Movius has a huge footprint in with the top 30 banks on Wall Street already. But from a financial services industry use case point of view, think about a broker. And they're meeting with clients, and this client likes WhatsApp, and this client likes Teams, and this client likes me to text him. And especially for a regulated industry, how do you govern and keep oversight over that all those communication channels at the user level? It's extremely difficult to do, right? I mean, you try and create standards and deploy MDM and all of this, but it's really hard to be able to manage. And what a lot of regulated industries have done by adopting Movius is all of that, the native integration with Teams and with CRM tools, and that dedicated number that T-Mobile that's provided as part of that application captures, records, transcribes, and archives all communications done through the mobile-based application. So really, really powerful use case around security and around compliance, particularly in regulated industries, public sector, higher ed, even for some of the privacy concerns in BYOD environments for educators, banking and financial services industries, healthcare, the list goes on. To maintain compliance around electronic communications, Movius is a critical solution that we're happy to talk to you about more in a follow-up meeting.
Another question or two came in. What tools are available to qualify a prospect? And we assume you're talking about an end user. So I'll answer this by saying, Rodney, it is our pleasure to participate in any of your end user discussions. Both myself, Steve Walker, who again is the T-Mobile Senior Sales Specialist at D&H, along with Jake or anybody at Cellhub to help you qualify that opportunity and help provide tools that would help to further determine the use case for a portion of that end user that may take an interest in activating some 5G devices for a subset of the employee base. Hope that answers your question. We've got about 3 to 4 minutes to go, Jake, and then I do want to open it up again lastly for anybody else. So if you would be mindful of that, I'll make one last interjection and wrap it up.
Sure. Yeah. And Rodney, also, if you were to join the partner program, Cellhub has already developed an entire enablement library for our partners. So that's training and technical materials and presentation materials, but also things like battle cards, with FAQs, objection handling, discovery questions, qualification tools. So we've built a lot of existing material that you would have access to help you just understand is this a good customer for me to even have the conversation with, and a couple of questions to ask them and qualifying. So those are things that we've built and are happy to build bespoke materials for you as well. So the gentleman, Rick, okay, we're going to get into two last slides here from a solution perspective and T-Mobile's ability around what's called advanced network solutions. So I want to relate this directly back to Rick's question. I deal with K-12 schools. How's the signal in building? And do you have boosters for buildings if coverage is bad? What do we need to do to boost signal in buildings? Great question. ANS is really an umbrella. Advanced Network Solutions is a part of the T-Mobile portfolio that is just an umbrella term for everything that T-Mobile can deploy to improve network coverage at a given location. Whether that's like what's called a femtocell, which is a small device that that propagates the cell signal within a building. That creates it's essentially a mini tower that would propagate the cell reception there. T-Mobile can deploy distributed antenna systems, which do the same thing essentially, but at scale. T-Mobile can also do things like advanced network solutions and slicing, where they're actually redirecting the tower nearby to provide a better signal indoors. Some of that is sometimes served by the indoor network CPE there being architected and installed correctly, but also from a T-Mobile perspective, the strength and power to go into that environment and provide cellular coverage in buildings. So there's a lot of different ways to go about how to do that. What ANS really does is it addresses the limitations from a cost and a performance perspective and a security perspective with Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi has a great place and widely deployed already today, but increasingly more mobility at the customer level is driving adoption of more cellular deployed and 5G infrastructure and networks to complement Wi-Fi. So that's really where, hey, if we have users that might leave the building to go to another building and we want them to still be able to have network access, Wi-Fi is a very challenging time addressing that and very expensive potentially, whereas 5G really helps to bridge that gap and create a seamless experience for a user combining both Wi-Fi and 5G. We have a case study on this, a very high-profile public case study with Boston Children's Hospital, where we did with T-Mobile the first hybrid 5G deployment in the U.S. in healthcare. We will share this as a case study from IDC that was written about it, but this is additional context for you as kind of a case study summary here. And we're happy to talk more about Healthcare Gazette with you because this is a great vertical market that is really ripe for 5G adoption. So in closing, I'm going to go ahead and pause here and just look at questions. We have really just a few slides that talk about, hey, who are the resources? We have a QR code for you to be able to go and apply to be a partner. And of course, if you have any questions, we're happy to meet with you on a one-on-one basis and meet you where you are in terms of what you do, how you go to market, and where we can be of value to you.
Thank you, Jake. I can't recall. Sorry. I can't recall if the audio gets open for any of the guests, but if so, open it up. And if not, send them in via the chat, and I'll be happy to address those over the last 2 or 3 remaining minutes. While that is happening, again, I want to reiterate that any follow-up interest from any partner on a partnership with D&H as part of your 5G journey can be sent to tmo5g@dnh.com. And if you are interested in becoming a sub-agent to D&H, which essentially it's no cost and just allows you, again, to be compensated by T-Mobile for helping your end users activate data plans on existing SIMmed, eSIMmed devices, you can begin that process by going to https://dnh.cellhub.com. We will provide the QR code in the deck, which is available on your screen now and will be sent to you. And this will get you started. We would love the opportunity to talk with any of you folks, and you can expect a follow-up from Steve Walker for all the attendees just to double check your level of interest and when it makes most sense to get started. Last question coming in before we close. Are the techs for T-Mobile advanced networks, T-Mobile personnel, or contractors?
Oh, it's T-Mobile personnel. Absolutely. Yep.
Yes. Yep. Great question. Any other questions? All right, Jake, I'll give my closing comment. You can do the same, but I wanted to thank all of you partners on behalf of D&H. Again, we know that your time is important and you could be anywhere else doing something else for your customers or with other distributors, whoever, or your staff. So we know this was an investment in your time. We are grateful for it. I hope we've piqued some interest, we've intrigued you, and we are hopeful to hear more from you about our partnership together in 5G. Jake?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. I'll echo that. Really appreciate everyone's time. I know it's valuable now more than ever. We're looking forward to hopefully meeting with you. We'd love to work with you. I know this was a lot here today that we went over. Believe it or not, there's a lot more. So don't feel like this is the limitation of what we have collectively to offer you. And just remember, our role is to support you, to support your growth, meet you where you are in your go-to-market and the value that you provide your customers and help you be more successful. So hope to talk to you all soon. Thanks for the time.